PK52, the Saturday morning meeting. Well, it's time for nostalgia. So let me give you some current events that happened this week. So I always try to be current. I got real interested in whether we were going to have a national rail strike or not. It got really close, gang. And for anybody that doesn't know, the automobile manufacturers depend on rail for delivering the cars to the dealership at about a 70+% clip. So if the rail strike would have happened, then the government would have jumped in and said, hey, well, you've got to ship food and you've got to ship fuel. So that would have been, for national defense. But the automobile dealers would have really suffered. So what if, and they haven't signed yet, but there is a tentative agreement. It looks like, for example, the rail workers are going to get like a 35% increase in their pay over the next 5 years, more time off and everything, and probably deserve that because, man, during COVID, we depended on shipping of everything by truckers and rail, and they were probably underpaid and way overworked during that time. So I'm glad that they came and they got some concessions on what they were looking for and that we avoided this strike. But it could happen. And the thing about it is we should have learned our lesson over the last couple of years, because if we run out of parts, we can't build cars. If we can't ship the vehicles, we can't sell cars. If we don't have people that can go to work, if we've shut a plant down because of a disease, we can't build cars. And so the only cars that would be available during that time were cars that were already in the market. And those cars would be pre-owned cars and certified pre-owned cars. And that's why there's been such an influx of the used car profitability and the cost of a pre-owned car. So we're going to hit a record this year, somewhere around 42 million used cars. And one of the big reasons is because the cars that are made by all manufacturers actually last longer. So check this out. Check this out right here. This is, I don't know if most of you know, some of you may have been watching my YouTube channel for a while and don't realize that I actually started doing training in 1990. 1990, that was a long time ago. I try not to reflect back. But during that time, I worked 3 years for Southeast Toyota, and I didn't really have a whole lot of interference. They said, you just came out of a retail environment. You're running a store. You know what the customers are asking for. You know how hard it is to drive people to you. So you write the programs that are going to make people more money. So I was very fortunate. I didn't come into a cookie cutter training company that said, here is the way we do our training, and it's a system of training. They said, write down and teach what's going to help people make more money. And at that point in time, the national headquarters for Toyota and the dealers all got together. There was extra money through the manufacturers. And it was a lot of fun, gang. So the 90s was great for me. During the 90s, I wrote this book. It is called System Prospecting. This is vintage, man. This is kind of museum stuff. It's really funny. So I had the 5 P's for profitability, which were phones, presentation, performance, persistence, and prospecting. I call that the 5 P's. And when we look at wintertime, as wintertime rolls in, traffic decreases. So we've got a double whammy going on right now because we have interest rates coming up. We still have a shortage of new cars because of shipping and parts, and the weather's going to turn on us. So now, in the summer months, I could have somebody just stop by the store because they're interested in looking at a 4Runner, never owned one, wanting to look at one in person. As the wintertime comes, snow events come, rain events come, all of a sudden, the southern dealerships do pretty well because during the summer, they're dealing with 100-degree heat every single day. And now if you're really in the south and in the Gulf and around the coasts, you start to do pretty well. But the northern dealerships have lack of traffic. And so I don't want to lose income during that time. So I wrote this program to kind of give a guideline to salespeople of what they could do with their time each and every day. So I'm going to go through a couple of these things just because I feel nostalgic today. So in my introduction for this, I said, reduce the amount of time spent with unwanted customers. So a customer that had bad credit that couldn't buy, a customer that was just looking, a customer that wasn't really in the market right now, based upon the last 2 years, if they show up at the dealership, they want a car. But we'll get back to the normalcy of the car business, and people are interested in cars. If you don't believe me, go to an auto show. The very few of those people that come to an auto show are going to buy a car in the next week. Now, they'll buy a car in the next few years or whatever, but they're very interested in the new technology and new cars. They're interested in combustion engines versus electric cars. They don't know a lot about it. In these auto shows, it's just a way for somebody to come and look at all manufacturers under one roof. So people are interested in cars. They're interested in boats. They're interested in planes. So people are interested doesn't mean they're buying today. Improve closing ratios and percentages. I'd like to talk to each and every person and have them buy a car from me. They came in to buy a car. Why don't they buy a car from me? Plan your day, week, month, and year. And planning a day isn't showing up at 8:10 for the 8 o'clock meeting. That's not planning your day. Planning your day is where you block a portion of your day. Doesn't matter how long, you decide. But in that time, you're going to try to increase your thumbprint or your footprint in your market. Like I said last week, the more people that know who you are and what you do, the more cars you're going to sell. It's not a trick, a closing technique, or some kind of made up something that makes you a great salesperson. The more people you know, more hands you shake, the more people that can identify you, the better off you're going to be. Increase your customer satisfaction, which should be a goal of everybody. I mean, the manufacturer should never have had to come up with a customer satisfaction or a sales or service satisfaction index. You know, what were we doing? Were we making customers mad so they never come back? So that should have been something that we should have done on our own, and the manufacturer shouldn't have had to get involved. And then to be more successful, make more money, whichever one drives you. So I want to do a couple of pages. So daily ROs. So I've talked about this during a lot of my classes that I do on Toyota Certified, but each person that comes into the dealership has to sign a legal document allowing us to work on their car. We can't just go work on their car. They have to sign off that they're letting us and allowing us to work on their car. It's legal protection for your dealership. So the repair order is going to be opened. And then once we complete the repair order, it's going to be closed, and the technician is going to sign off on the repair order. So basically what's happened on a legal basis is we took your car in, we were assigned to do stuff, we asked your permission, hey, we found these items, may we go ahead and address these items? You signed off on these items, we finished them, and then we signed off legally that we took care of the vehicle. That's a big deal. So how many of these do they write a day? The average service writer writes about 18 to 22 ROs a day. So, I don't know, let's call it 20. Let's say you have 4 service writers in your dealership. And let's say they're going to work 6 days a week because, you know, most places aren't open on Sunday. There's 52 weeks in a year, so the actual number is 24,960. Let's call that 25,000. So 25,000 of these ROs are written in your service department each year. What do I have on here? I've got the information. I've got the car. I've got the year. I've got the miles. I've got the trim level. And then, you know, we don't throw away service history. So if the customers come in multiple times, I physically have the ability to go back and look at how many times they've come in and what they've spent on their car. Just a couple of suggestions. It's really interesting that once you get outside your warranty, and you come into service and you get hit with that first service bill. Gang, you know, shops are anywhere from a little under $100 an hour labor rate to well over $200 an hour, depending on where you are in the U.S. And so all of a sudden I've got a 4 or 5 hour ticket and it's $200 an hour. I'm over $1,000 once I pay for labor and parts. And that stings a little bit, you know, because I was in, Toyota Care. I didn't have to pay for an oil change or a tire rotation. I had a couple of warranty items fixed on the car. So I haven't been out of pocket any money on my car in the first couple of years. And all of a sudden I'm 4 or 5 years into the ownership of this car and bam, here comes that first tire replacement and service, and all of a sudden I'm staring at well over $1,000. I'm going like, wow, that hurt a little bit. I didn't expect that. If I get a new car, this isn't going to happen again. So that new car syndrome is right there present. So they've just completed the repair order. They've picked their car up. What would happen if you went to your general manager, general sales manager, and your service director, and you go, who's calling these people back and thanking them for their service and asking them if there's any way we can improve? I mean, who's doing that? So I'm trying to make myself a commodity. I mean, we could hire people to do the call back, but why would I want to hire somebody to call a customer back when the best person to talk to a customer in the history of the car business has always been the sales professional? Hey, Mr. and Miss Johnson, I wanted to call you up and thank you for your service. I work in the sales department here in the dealership, and we kind of divide tasks up because we work together. You had your car in service a couple of days ago. I want to make sure everything was okay. Is there anything we need to address? You could back that up 3 or 4 times and write that word track down. It's just a conversation. Oh, no, everything was great, man. We love your service department. We always use your service department. Well, I noticed that you put a brand new set of tires on the car and you had a couple of service items done on the car. Most of the time when my clients that I'm dealing with start spending money on the car and they bought the car as a new car, they start having a conversation. Well, before we spend more money on the car and service and everything, we might want to think about trading the car. And so what I'm trying to get right here, and I think everybody gets misled, what I was trying to teach in this program back in the 90s was, I'm not trying to get them to come in and buy a car today. If they want to, they're welcome to come in. I will take care of them. What I'm trying to do is get some kind of commitment of how much longer they're going to keep the car. Well, Casey, that's true. We actually did talk about maybe going and looking at new cars, but we're probably not going to do that until the spring. Well, I'm going into winter right now. Spring is a few months away, and that's why the dealership spends so much money on a CRM. So the more information I stuff in that CRM, the more it's going to work for me. I put their name, I put the conversation, and the great thing about salespeople is we have really good memories. If you start me with a couple of lines of what we said 3 months ago, I'll go, oh, I know exactly what you were talking about. It's crazy, our memories, because we are programmed that way, our memories are really good to remember the conversation. So if you tee yourself up in the CRM, you can call them back up and say, hey, I know spring is just around the corner, and you guys said you were looking to go ahead and trade cars in the spring. I wanted to get started. So all that being said, all this information that I need right here, and approval by my management to help the customer satisfaction and service, and that's one of my goals, is to make this customer super happy so they'll buy another car from me. So this is not a gimmick. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and break this down. I'm going to call 5 people a day. Out of, so let's go. 20 ROs, there's 80 ROs a day. So out of the 80 repair orders a day, should there be 5 repair orders? 5 repair orders that somebody might be close to trading a car? So I'll do that 5 days a week. Saturdays, if I'm open on Sundays, I'm working weekend traffic. That's what the weekends are for. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and even on my day off, I'm going to make 5 quick phone calls or 5 emails or 5 texts. We've lost the art of actually communicating by voice. And that worries me a little bit. Call me up and thank me for spending my money in service. Call me up and ask me, is there anything that they missed? Is there something I'm looking for in the future? I mean, I'd like to express myself. I just spent $1,000 with you. And so 5 times 5 times 50 weeks in a year, that's 2 weeks off to take your vacation. So that's 1,250 people you've contacted. So winter time's coming. I don't know what you're going to do. If there's no traffic in the dealership and you have the same number of salespeople, some people won't have an up during the day, maybe working some internet leads. But I'll just put myself in front of 1,250 people that are currently driving our car and using our service department. And obviously, if they were irritated by our service department, they wouldn't be coming in. So this is a customer that's happy with the dealership. How many of those people do you think, if you gave yourself a year to work this 1,250 people, how many people would buy a car? Would that change your income? Well, gang, I watched this thing and it was way too long. So what I did is I stopped, clipped it, and I'll finish the second part next week. PK52, the Saturday morning meeting.